Washoe County Library System welcomes you to our monthly series from the Nevada Historical Society presents High Noon with Neal Cobb. This afternoon's topic is the Sparks Marina, From Pit to a Jewel, presented by historian Scott Carey. My name is Jennifer, and I'm happy to be here with you today. And now I would like to introduce Sherry Hayes-Zorn with the Nevada Historical Society. Again, welcome, and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jennifer and Tim and the Washoe County Library System. They're such great partners for us to be able to share interesting history topics that we have, such as High Noon. And we really appreciate being able to continue this partnership to share this history at any time at 3 a.m. or, you don't have to be live at this event. So we really appreciate it. I just want to briefly mention this year and into next year, essentially January 2025 through June 2026, the Nevada Historical Society is closed due to renovating and retrofitting our building. But we will be having offsite programming, of course, with the Washoe County Libraries at the Sierra View, our Nevada History on the Go, with the Knights of Pythias and our Writers Wednesday on the go. And we are working to schedule offsite lectures for our Art Town series on the go. So please check out our website, and there's more information that will be coming out. And I already have 2025's lectures and authors scheduled. So we already have a full year at a glance. So make sure you check that out. So without further ado, let me introduce our wonderful host, Neal Cobb, who is an honorary curator and such a longtime supporter here at the Nevada Historical Society. We really appreciate his continued support to help share history and help be a good partner for the Historical Society. So, hey, Neal, how are you today?
I'm doing great, and thanks for the intro. Our speaker today, Scott Carey, he grew up in Sparks. He attended public schools and then used the Governor Kenny Gwinn Memorial Scholarship to graduate from the University of Nevada. Over the past 2 decades, Scott has served as a tribal, state, and local levels of government throughout Nevada and has worked on land use planning, economic development, tourism, transportation, and natural resource management issues. Scott received his Master of Science degree in Management and Leadership from Western Governors University, Nevada in 2018, and has been a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners since 2020. Scott is a lifetime member and volunteer of the Sparks Heritage Museum, and since 2009 has served on the museum's Board of Trustees. I can take you back a little bit further with Scott to 2004, the very end of it, when we were organizing to go ahead and celebrate the Sparks Centennial of 2005. I had the honor of being led by our leader, and that was Karen Dolan, the office manager for Mayor Tony Armstrong. And I was able to work with Scott and with Jerry Fenwick, and we went ahead and did the programs that was designed, and we had this all on 35 millimeter slides at the time. We didn't have the rest of the stuff. And we were able to rotate the voices, and we had intended to take this to the kids, but it was so popular that we had to do the program for many other outlets, the Boy Scouts and Westerners and all kinds of stuff. So this is a long time historian. He really is an asset to not just the city of Sparks, but the state of Nevada. So at this time, please welcome Mr. Scott Carey.
Hey, thanks a lot, Neal. It's kind of hard to follow up that very kind introduction. Big thank you to the Nevada Historical Society and the Washoe County Library for having me back. Just sharing my screen here. This has been a fun presentation to put together. About the history of the Sparks Marina, and really what we're going to try to go through is kind of cover the whole history, talk about its history from going from a farm to a mine to a Superfund site and a pit to really what I think is the jewel of the city. It's a very special area to me. I visited about two to three times a week, and just really excited to give this presentation. Before I wanted to be jump in, I wanted to put in I wouldn't be doing my job as a lifetime member of the Sparks Heritage Museum if I didn't put a plug in for the Sparks Heritage Museum. In our cultural center, 2025 marks our 25th anniversary as a museum, and as the oldest and largest local history museum here in the Truckee Meadows, we encourage you all to come and check us out in downtown Sparks, and become a member. And also, we'll take your time and your money too. So what I'd like to do is begin my presentation kind of talking about the area that we now know as the Sparks Marina, and the city of Sparks has been the home to the Northern Paiute and Washoe people forever, essentially. The area that we now know as the Truckee Meadows, and the area that's now the Sparks Marina, was an important part of the Washoe and the Paiute people. Just to kind of put it into perspective, City of Sparks will be celebrating its 120th anniversary as a city here in 2025. About a decade ago, out at Pyramid Lake, there was some carbon dating of some petroglyphs out on the reservation that were dated between 10,500 to 15,000 years old. So that gives you a perspective of how long the Northern Paiute and the Washoe people have been living in this area, which just boggles my mind. Nevada, in fact, is home to 28 different tribal nations all throughout our state, and they're primarily comprised of the Washoe, which is around northwestern Nevada, Reno, Sparks, Carson City area, the Northern Paiute, which is highlighted here in the tan, the Western Shoshone, which is eastern Nevada and central Nevada, and down in southern Nevada we have the Southern Paiute people. Obviously, you can tell by looking at me, I'm probably not the best person to describe the Native American experience here in Sparks, but I've had the great pleasure in my career to work with many of the tribes across Nevada. And if you're interested in more information, I encourage you to check out the Pyramid Lake Museum out in Nixon. Check out the Reno Sparks Indian Colony Cultural Resources Program here in town, and then also check out the Stewart Indian School Museum in Carson City. It's a fantastic facility. So really, as no surprise to anybody here, Sparks got its start as a railroad town, and this is probably the earliest photo that I could find of the area that we now call the Sparks Marina. This is from 1906. This is a shot of the rail yards looking east. You can see the Paw Mountain Range and the Vista Mountain Range here, and the area we call the Vista Narrows. This is where I-80 goes through the canyon, heading eastward. You could see the rail yard here. So the Sparks Marina area is roughly right here. So 1906, you could see that there wasn't really much going on in the area that we now know as the marina. Here's a later photo. This is from the 1930s, taken from a photograph. You could see here's the downtown Sparks and the rail yards. Right here, this is the railroad coming through town, going through the East Truckee Canyon. Here's the Paw Mountain Range. The Sparks S is up on the mountain there, and then we have, this is what we now call Prater Way. So the Sparks Marina is right about here. So you can see from this image, it was all basically farmland. And then moving on in its history, really kind of started getting going in the early 60s. In the 1960s, the Helms Construction Company approached the city of Sparks to start a mine, to mine aggregate. and materials for building across the region. So in the early 1960s, the city of Sparks issued a special use permit, and as part of that special use permit, there was actually planning underway, even in those early days, to lay out they knew that this was going to be a mine, and it was going to be played out, and so they did require in part of that special use permit that it would be reclaimed and would eventually be turned into a lake that would be for recreation. Just to kind of give this a little bit of perspective here, you have Ring Road is called out. This is what we now know as McCarran Boulevard, and then this is the Interstate 80. I believe this image is from 1965, so you can even see at those times the city was planning. I think one of the big misconceptions of the Sparks Marina and its history is that, hey, nothing really happened until the flood in 1997. And but you could even see back in the early 60s, the city kind of had its eye on planning. So in 1968, the property that we now know as the Sparks Marina was purchased by the Helms Construction Company, and they started building out the mine and using the location to store a lot of its construction equipment. This is the aerial image from 1968. We have the new portion of East McCarran Boulevard put in. Interstate 80 is still under construction. Here is downtown Sparks. You can see the viaduct is being built. This is the Sparks Nugget as it's going over the casino. Here's the Sparks rail yards right here, but you can see not much activity. So moving forward into 1970, you could see that mining is underway. Here's McCarran, here's Interstate 80. So the mining has begun on the mine, and they started digging it out. As we move forward, this is an image from 1974. You could see that there's some more development around this area of Sparks. The mine is continuing to go on. You see that they have a lot of their construction equipment. Here's their old construction offices, and we may have some industrial activity being developed further to the south. So here's an image from 1978. You can see that the mine is still going strong. They've added some more land for their operations, and they're mining this aggregate for use throughout the region. And here's a great photo that I got from the Sparks Heritage Museum. This is from roughly around the 1978, late 70s. You can see Interstate 80 called out here. This is McCarran Boulevard, and this is a really good close-up of the Helms construction mining operation. You could see some equipment and some steam going there. They were pulling out the aggregate. One of the things with the aggregate, the late 70s here in the Truckee Meadows was really a boom time for the entire region. You had tourism and gaming economy really at the peak. Here in northern Nevada, 1970, 78, 79, I believe the MGM was constructed. We now know that as the Grand Sierra. That was the largest hotel in the world. And so all of the aggregate is something you use for construction. It's used to make concrete and materials for road building and buildings. So around the late 70s or the 70s and into the 80s, any tall building, any major road project, there's a good chance that the base came from the Helms construction operation here. But it's just an amazing photo just to kind of see that this just what it looked like around this time, East Sparks out here. So moving on, this is a slide from 1986. You can see that the developments of East Sparks, the neighborhood has continued to grow. More traffic on Interstate 80, and the mine is continuing in its operation. We have the Don Mello softball fields were constructed by Sparks. You'll notice there's not a Sparks Boulevard yet, as we would know it today. And then this next slide here is 1994, and so this was kind of towards the end period of the Helms construction operation. You could see the brand new Charlie Smith youth baseball fields were constructed here, and the mine is really no longer active. In the late early 90s, the Helms Construction Company had some financial problems, and there was a series of kind of bankruptcies going on. So the mine's not really active here, but there is a bunch of equipment staged. And then we move on to 1995. By 1995, the mine is completely played out. The Helms Construction Company had gone bankrupt, and it's been abandoned. This is a great photo looking inside the Helms pit, looking east. You could see the Sparks S would be roughly right here, but this is kind of the era when it became known as the Helms pit. I think one of the things in my research and from what I've heard kind of growing up in the area is after the Helms Construction Company went bankrupt, a lot of folks lost their jobs. There was quite a lot of layoffs, and the way things went down, folks weren't very happy with the Helms Construction Company after the bankruptcies. And so the name's Helms Pit was really kind of popular in the area. And as you can see from this photo, have an abandoned mine. This is an aerial photo from 1995. You can kind of see the state of the area. It's just completely abandoned. Here's some shots that I came across. These apartments are still there today. This is roughly where the playground is on the west side of the Sparks Marina area, but you could see it was just all fenced off. A lot of water collecting in the bottom of it. Just really not a very desirable look for the community. Here's another look, kind of looking west towards the Nugget here. This is this Western Village Casino. This was a highly visible area from Interstate 80, and so when you were coming through Sparks, this is what people saw, and it really had a big identity. It was closely tied to the city. That the Helms pit. So one of the things I also wanted to cover during this period was in the late 80s there was fuel that was discovered from the tank farm that's located just east of the Nugget and the Sparks rail yards. During this time, the fuel was leaking into the community, and it was ending up in the Helms pit. I got this graphic from the Nevada Division of Environmental Protection. So here's the Helms pit. We now know it as the Sparks Marina. You see kind of its repair or its state of affairs in those areas. But the Sparks fuel distribution facility. It's where we get our gasoline. It's where the jet fuel comes in. It's where a lot of our products come in that we use for our lives, I guess, here in northern Nevada from California and the rail yard. And so it was leaking, and it was getting into the groundwater and ending up into the Helms pit. Here's another kind of cool graphic from NDEP, kind of showing, from the tank farm, the fuel was leaking down, got into the groundwater, and as groundwater does, it tries to find the lowest area to where it settled. And so where it ended up, it was in the Helms pit. So this was a really kind of concerning thing for the community. In 1987, that was when they were initially found. And as you can see from the list here, you have the Santa Fe Pacific Pipeline, Southern Pacific, Shell, Time, Barry Hinckley, Chevron, Texaco, BP, Golden Gate Petroleum. These are major oil and energy companies, multinational conglomerates, and very, very hard players. So the city, was very concerned about this situation and the impact to public health and safety, and so they went after them, as a small city. And I think really a lot of credit should go to former Mayor Bruce Breslow, who in the early 90s, when he was elected mayor, really kind of took this head on. And Mayor Breslow did a really good job of engaging the state of Nevada and bringing them to the table to help support Sparks in its fight against these big oil companies and the pollution that was happening in the Sparks Marina. Mayor Breslow did an excellent job, worked very closely with former NDEP Administrator Alan Biaggi, who really helped the city and bring the state and bring those regulators and do the monitoring and get the testing and really kind of help fight on this. On top of it, the city did a good job of hiring its own legal counsel. I think a lot of credit should go to Ken Robertson, who was hired by the city and brought in by Mayor Breslow, who had a lot of experience with environmental law to lead this fight. Big shout out to former Assistant City Manager Bill Isaiah, who was a great legal mind himself and really did a great job of coordinating all of these efforts. So as a result of the city's efforts bringing the state in, the Helms Pit was actually declared what we call a toxic Superfund site by the EPA. That's the Environmental Protection Agency. And so as a result of that designation, it brought in a lot of federal resources to help with the monitoring and getting the site cleaned up. On top of that, with these legal efforts, the city was able to come up with settlements with each one of these oil companies on their impact to the city. And as a result of those settlements, the city got some money, but they also got a commitment from the oil companies to put in testing wells and as well as pumps that today are still in use that help pump water from this area into the Truckee River, clean water. And so it's really kind of a tale of a small city going after these big oil companies and getting its water and land cleaned up, which is a big part of, I think, the history of the Sparks Marina. Then that leads me to the next big aspect of the history of the Sparks Marina, and that's the Great Flood of 1997. In mid-December 1996 into New Year's Day 1997, there was huge snowfall, kind of the opposite of the winter that we're having this year, but lots of snowfall in the early and mid part of December. And then towards the end of December, around the holidays, things really started warming up, and that snow turned into rain. And so, as is kind of the case in our region, we have high snowfalls followed by warm weather and rain. That's a recipe for literally a disaster. And in 1997, this was no exception. One of the here's kind of outlined in the yellow here is kind of the extent of the floodwaters from the flood of 1997. In terms of water kind of coming through, this is probably the fourth largest flood in our region's history. But in terms of impacts to the community and disasters, it's number one. The flood of 1997 really hit the Sparks industrial area hard. Hit the airport and the industrial areas of Reno really hard, resulted in over $1 billion of impacts to the region. Here's a shot kind of looking eastward towards Reno. You could see the old Hilton there. This is the Sparks industrial area, University Farms. This would be McCarran Boulevard. But you can kind of see just the extent of the water that was coming in from the mountains. The big thing with the flood of '97 is there's only so much water that can go through what we call the Vista Narrows, and that's a phenomenon where we have the Paw mountain range to the north and the Virginia range in the south. They converge from where the Truckee River is, and on a normal day, in normal times, you get about 6,000 cubic feet per second that goes through the river. When we have these flood events and a lot of water's going through the Vista Narrows, it gets to about 17 to 18,000 cubic feet per second. That's when we start to have a flood. One of the interesting things with this area too is you have the Truckee River flows through, but you also have Steamboat Creek coming in from Washoe Valley in the south, converges here. And then we also have the North Truckee Drain, which comes from the Spanish Springs. So you have a river and two major creeks all kind of converging, and only so much water can go through there. Just to give you an extent about how big the flood of '97 was, during the height of the flood, they measured it at 24,000 cubic feet per second. Keep in mind, 6,000 cubic feet per second is kind of where it's at.
Um, and so there are some estimates that could have been higher. It could have been even 28,000 cubic feet per second. Um, but the gauge only goes up to 24,000 cubic feet per second. So you just see only so much water can go through there, so it backs up and it hits the whole community. And so here's a shot from the Reno airport. This is an American Airlines flight coming in, just to give you an extent of how fast the water rose. This plane was able to successfully land and get to the gate, but by the time they got offloaded and the floodwaters had come and had already hit the airplane. Just a crazy flood event that we had. Love this picture from Channel 2's coverage of the flood of '97. This is Washoe Valley, which basically all became Washoe Lake. This is Interstate I-580, US 395. Just the entire valley was just covered in water, and all of that water is going down the Steamboat Creek through southeast Reno and then into Sparks at the Vista Narrows. Just a ton of water. Here's some extent of the damage shown to the Sparks industrial area. This is looking south towards Hidden Valley, and this is our number one employment center for the region. A lot of chemicals, a lot of damage from this flood. This is kind of a blurry photo looking west, but you can see this is roughly where the Helms Pit is right here. This is the Sparks Nugget. But here's another kind of blurry photo, but I think this does a good job. This is roughly McCarran Boulevard and Pembroke Drive, just near Hidden Valley. This is looking north towards Sparks. The Sparks S is right here. But you can just see the amount of water that was backing up and hitting the community. And so one of the really concerning things was for the city was that this water already hit the industrial area. It was going further north into the town. It was going to start taking out neighborhoods in East Sparks. And so as a result, the city made the decision to cut a channel and start diverting some of this floodwater coming in from the river into the Helms Pit. So here's a picture kind of showing the diversion channel that was constructed to divert some of these floodwaters into the Helms Pit. This is on the east side of the lake. And here's a kind of closer up photo showing the water that they diverted into the lake. A lot of the neighborhoods would have gotten flooded if they wouldn't have made this tough decision. Here's another kind of close up showing the how they were able to divert the flood waters, and as you can see, it's about 100-foot drop off right here. And one of the problems that had happened with that drop off and just filling up the lake, it created a churning effect. This was just farmland that the Helms Construction Company went and mined down there. And as a result, it was just sand and gravel at the bottom. So when you drop floodwaters at the bottom, it starts a really churning effect, and that churning effect created a lot of erosion. And unfortunately, as a part of that erosion, it ended up taking a lane of travel of Interstate 80 to the south here. Here's kind of a cool shot of the travel lane that was taken out from the churning and diverting the waters. There's some NDOT engineers trying to figure out how to solve the problem. So it was really a fantastic effort between the city and NDOT to put in to re-put up that travel lane. It was the Interstate 80 was really only closed for a matter of weeks. They were able to bring in just a ton of material and rocks and rebuild the lane and open it back up, because this is Interstate 80. It's a major national transportation route. So I think this whole episode of diverting the floodwaters into the Helms Pit, and the Helms Pit taking out a portion of Interstate 80 can be summed up by this cartoon that was in the Sparks Tribune, where you got a reporter asking
guy in a hard hat, any comments, Mr. Carey? And so my dad was Sean Carey, or still is Sean Carey. He was a public works director and was largely responsible for this decision. But it's just kind of a funny cartoon that the decision was made, took out a lane of travel, and they got it put back in a fairly good amount of time. So here's an aerial photo from 1997. This is after the flood. You can now see that the Helms Pit, you have this is the lane of travel that was taken out. So that's been restored, and we now have a lake for the first time. And so all of that water from the water, the plan was always to fill it up and make it a lake, but certainly the flood of 97 accelerated those efforts greatly. And so using its settlement money from the oil companies and using the federal disaster relief money that it got from the flood of 97, the city was able to quickly turn around and start its efforts to build what we now know as the Sparks Marina Park. Here's some photos looking south. You see some of the grading activity, and they're starting to build the recreational area. I think one of the interesting things is where did the name Sparks Marina come from? Obviously, Sparks, we've been a railroad town all of our history. We're not really a coastal town. Where did the name Marina come from? It was approved by the city council in 1999, and that was after a naming contest. The city put it out. Hey, what should we name it? So there were a lot of interesting suggestions that came out. Folks wanted to name it Helms Lake. Other folks wanted to call it Sparks Lake. There was a big effort to name the lake after John Esquaga, who was still the owner of the Nugget at the time. And then there were even folks who wanted to name it Helms Pit because that had just become, that's what it's just known as for so long. One very creative name that was submitted by the senior class at Reed High School in their government class was Breslow's Hole. That one didn't get submitted, but the city council ultimately decided on Sparks Marina, and I think the name Marina really kind of invoked what the city was going after, is kind of a new brand, have Sparks be known for something other than the Helms Pit, to attract development and make this really a community asset. So you can see here's a shot of the Sparks Marina with the turf being installed and all these trees. A lot of credit, I think, should go out to our former Parks and Recreation Director, Stan Shear, who led a lot of the planning efforts on the park and really did a great job, I think, of incorporating that nautical marina theme. You could see the blue tops of the and the trash cans invoke the marina-looking street lights. They put in a 2-mile walking path. So if you walk around the Sparks Marina, it's a 2-mile walk. Today, it's very, very popular. But they really wanted it to be a community focal point and a community place for people to go and enjoy recreation. And here's a shot from the early 2000s of they put in 2 beaches and they put in lifeguards, and this has become just a great asset for folks in the summertime to go swimming and enjoy the lake. You have some volleyball courts. Another big effort was getting events programming at the marina. It's now become a big events venue in itself. Here's a shot from 2001. What they called at that time was the Star Spangled Sparks event. It was an event around 4th of July where you'd go to the marina, hang out all day, watch music and performances, and then hang out and watch the fireworks from downtown. So here's the Nevada Air National Guard putting in a former jet aircraft into the bottom of the lake. One of the big efforts was to make this a tourist attraction as well as a recreational amenity, but so they decided to sink a jet airplane down there for scuba divers to go look at. I think there was a few years later, they also put in an old school bus down there for scuba divers. Just from talking to some friends who are scuba divers, this was a mine, and then they turned it and filled it up with water, called it a lake. It's pretty murky down at the bottom, so I don't think the scuba diving has really taken off yet, but just kind of a cool photo. Another attraction that's been put in that's still very popular today is a dog park. It's very popular for folks to go and bring their dogs, let them swim in the marina. Marina has a lot of fishing. That's the fish are stocked by the Nevada Department of Wildlife. Here is a fishing pier that's there available for use, and it's designed for folks who are in wheelchairs as well too. After it was installed in the early 2000s. One of the big events that's held at the marina every year is free fishing day. The Nevada Department of Wildlife in early May they do a free kids fishing. And as part of where they stock the Sparks Marina allows the kids to come and fish for free. It's a very popular event. Really, the whole south part of the marina is filled with anglers, which is a cool thing to see. Over the years, the marina has become a big special events venue. It's been the site of national competitions. We have jet ski races and community walks to raise awareness and money for different sorts of things. But in 1999, the first ever Sparks Turkey Trot was held. Here's a shot on the left of the first ever Sparks Turkey Trot. It was held there on Lincoln Way, and it wasn't even paved then. But Sparks Turkey Trot's been 26 years strong, and it's a great annual event at the marina. Here's a photo from the early 2000s of the kids' triathlon event. Just events to try to make this just really a gathering spot for the community. Another big user of the lake is the UNR concrete canoe team. They use the Sparks Marina as its home base, and have won national championships. And what they do is they make these canoes out of concrete, and they float them, and they compete against other teams. It's kind of cool to watch them out there while they're training. Here's a shot of the original playground equipment. You can see the nautical theme with kind of the boats and the seahorse that was installed in 2022. The city was, with a lot of help of the community, was able to unveil an all-access playground, and it's been a great asset. You can go out there in the summer and watch this thing full of kids playing and doing all sorts of good stuff. Another recent addition to the marina is the Northern Nevada Veterans Memorial. And so this is a memorial that was dedicated in 2022. It was really kind of the dream of former Mayor Ron Smith, who kind of started this effort in 2014, bringing people together as a way to honor the 896 fallen Nevadans of our armed forces. This is a great memorial that honors all of our service members, and recently there's a pathway that was dedicated in honor of former Mayor Ron Smith, and it's become a great attraction, a way to honor the veterans at the marina. One of the big things with the Sparks Marina, as I mentioned earlier, it was always the plan for a park and to make it a great community asset. But the other part of it was the city wanted this to be a way to attract new development, increase tax revenue, and bring jobs to the city. In the mid to late 1990s, the city was, while they were battling it out with the oil companies and dealing with the disasters from the flood, they took a lot of efforts to, they created an area plan. They call it the Marina Area Plan. And that was all geared towards attracting development around the marina. In 1999, the city council created the city's second redevelopment district on the west side of the lake as another tool in the toolbox to attract new development. So the first one that kind of came in is on the northwest corner of the marina, and that's the Marina Village Plan Development. Developer David Dahl approached the city. He got what we call a plan development handbook in place in 1998 and started building what we now know as the Marina Village Plan Development. The development included 240 apartment units, and there was also single-family residential units and a canal. One of the really cool things about the Sparks Marina is that before the Sparks Marina, we really didn't have lakeside houses or lakefront houses. Now we do. Also included in the original concept was a commercial building with mixed uses, and then more apartments and condominiums. Here's kind of the earlier renderings of what the initial plan was to be kind of called out. Here's an early shot of the what we now know as the waterfront building. The Sparks Water Bar is right here on this end of the building today, and here's the parking garage that the Marina Village or Marina Villas apartments wrap around today. Here's those lakefront properties, lakefront houses that we were talking about. This was really the first thing to get built in this development. There's 58 houses that are situated along the marina and along the canal. And so this project came apart came to be in the early 2000s, and then in 2008 2009 we hit the Great Recession, and so things got kind of paused. They were able to build the apartments and the single family and the commercial building, but as kind of the world ended, as former Mayor Cashel used to talk about the recession, things kind of stopped. So here's a shot of when that was sat as a parking garage, but things got back on track. And here's a great shot of the Marina Villa. Here's the Marina Canal homes. And here's a shot of the Marina Villas, which wrap around that parking garage. It's just been a really exciting development for the city. And that leads me to another on the east side of the marina. We also have the Legends at the Sparks Marina development, and so as part of its redevelopment efforts in the late 1990s into the early 2000s, the city was looking for developers to come in and develop that side of the marina. And so as part of that, they were connected with Red Development out of Kansas City, Kansas. And so as part of that connection, Red Development approached the city with a concept for a destination retail center. And that center included, here's an earlier rendering. You could see there was concepts for a canal to run through the shopping mall. There was also talks of a AAA baseball stadium. And so the city, connecting with Red, they went to the Nevada legislature and they got some pieces of legislation that were put together. One was to get financing to help put together the baseball stadium, and so the city got approval by the legislature and Governor Gwynn to get a rental car tax, and that tax ultimately would fund the baseball stadium. And so that baseball stadium actually ended up, as we all know, getting built in downtown Reno. We now know it as Greater Nevada Field, home of the Reno Aces. I think after the legislation went through, the city of Reno kind of made some additional bonuses and brought forth some more money that City of Sparks wasn't in a position to do, and so the baseball stadium got put down there. But another unique part of the legislation that they went after was what we call star bonds. Here's another earlier rendering of the concept for the Legends shopping center. You can see the baseball stadium here. There were plans for a major hotel casino and to be a destination shopping center. So getting back to the star bonds stand for sales tax anticipated revenue bonds. Basically, how this is tax increment financing, where as the Nevada legislature put in place, 75% of the sales tax that's collected from the shopping mall goes to fund the construction of the mall. And so the city went to the legislature, was able to get that legislation in place, and really some of the earlier concepts for the Legends. There was talk of the Hot Dog Hall of Fame, and they were going to build a Nike Town, Nike, retail at a Bubba Gump Shrimp Factory, a T-Rex restaurant with the animatronics. This was the early 2000s. Things, were rolling at that thing. But the whole concept, and as we've seen it come as forth today, Legends was geared towards tourists, and as part of the legislation, the city had to show, and red development had to show that the majority of people visiting this shopping center are coming from out of state, and so what they tried to do is bring in a mix of uses that would attract those out of state folks and help with the bonds. Here's a shot from 2008. This is showing the construction of the Legend Shopping Center. This is Sparks Boulevard. You could see the east side of the Sparks Marina here, and you can see this is what we now know as the Shields retail outlet, and they're starting to build the mall and grade the site. This is where Target is, and so one of the interesting things is with the Star bonds, as I mentioned before. So 75% of all the sales taxes went toward or go towards these bonds, and so the city in 2009 they issued about $119 million in bonds, and those bonds went to pay for the roadways, paid for the sewer and the water pipes, and also to help with some of the artwork in that. And so one of the things is, really the first big tenant to open up in Legends was Shields. Here's an early shot from, I want to say 2008 or 9, looking at Shields. When Shields opened up in 2008, it was the largest sporting goods store in the world. It was the flagship of the Shields shopping empire, and so they got their start in the Midwest, and this was really their first West Coast store. And today it's still a very major attraction. As the Legends development progressed, more things got added. You had the IMAX movie theater, you had the Lowe's hardware store, you had other really unique outlet retailers move into the region. Here's a great shot of former Mayor Gino Martini here. I think this is at the opening of or the groundbreaking for the IMAX movie theater. You have Batman and Darth Vader and a stormtrooper and Cinderella, and so really five awesome characters put together here. Gino Martini, our former mayor, really was a driving force behind the financing and getting everything that needed to be done to get the Legends development in place. Here's a shot from the grand opening of the Legends Shopping Center. You have former Councilwoman Julia Ratty, former Councilman Phil Salerno, then Councilman Ron Smith, former Mayor, former Councilman Mike Kerrigan, and former Councilman member Ron Schmidt. If you could think of all the things, between redevelopment, the Star bonds, all of the zoning and city approvals that you had to do, Gino was really kind of the driving force. And as a former banker himself, he was always pretty conservative on things, but he kind of saw the vision. He could see what this retail could really be put out. And so at the end of the day, this has been a success for the city. In this redevelopment area, over 1,100 residential units have been constructed adjacent to the marina, and over 1.4 million square feet of commercial space has been constructed. And so those really just kind of looking at from the taxable value sort of a thing, in 1997, the taxable value of the land adjacent to the marina was about $42 million. And in 2012, the assessed value was $170 million. So from that perspective and the jobs and the different retailers, it's been an exciting an interesting journey for the city, and I think an important part of the city's history. So just kind of my last slide here, just wanted to take a moment and honor my good friend Nina Laxalt, who passed away a couple weeks ago. I wanted to dedicate today's presentation in honor of Nina. Nina was a good friend of mine, someone I had the great pleasure to work for and work with for many years. And she comes from a great Nevada family, and in the late 90s and early 2000s, she was a lobbyist for the city of Sparks and was pretty instrumental in putting together a lot of the legislation and the state stuff that the city needed to help with the development of the marina. So just want to take a quick moment and dedicate today's presentation in honor of Nina. And with that concludes my formal presentation. Be happy to answer any questions from the group.
Thank you, Scott. That was great. There was some, I really loved quite a few of the plans and the photos, seeing the progression of the land. I do have a couple questions. So when Helms was looking at applying for the mining permit, why did the city of Sparks, or, as part of the agreement, why did they, is there anything written about why they wanted to ultimately make it a lake? When after Helms was done with the mining aspect, because like that early, that one right there, lake and recreation area. I find that interesting. That's how forward thinking they were thinking about it. Is there stuff in paperwork talking about that?
Yeah, great question. I think, the short answer is, I think, why did they want a lake and a recreation area? I think it's because Sparks didn't have one. If you go back to 1960, Sparks would have been about 30,000 people in size, and it was just still very much still railroad and company town to a certain degree. So I think, to the credit of the city in the past, they had a lot of really great insight. And one of the really cool things that the city was able to negotiate with the Helms Construction Company is that it's in the conditional or special use permit, that as soon as the mines played out, the land would go to the city. And that's what ended up happening, which has been really exciting. A big thing.
Wow. Can you talk a little bit more about Helms and why was there a bankruptcy? It was just the time, that they were kind of playing, the aggregate was kind of no longer being able to be mined out, or is there some additional information you might be able to talk about?
Yeah, I didn't have a chance to dive too much into that, but what I do know is that, in the late 80s, there was, the construction had really kind of slowed down. I think maybe part of it had to have been part of the recession in the 80s and moving money around. But if you're thinking it's a major mining operation, very expensive equipment, had a lot of trucks that needed to be paid for, and I think that they might have been a little over leveraged.
That would make sense. So, you see in the picture you've got right there, the main section, but did the mine or the property get used further? Like the other sections we kind of see in front of us, like you see the main digging, but like that area where you've got the cursor, or was it just still farmland that wasn't being used? It's just hard to
Yeah,
tell with the black and white.
yeah, still very much, farmland. The city did kind of have in that original concept. They recognized that, hey, we're building this new ring road, this new McCarran. This is going to be a big interchange, and so even at that point they looked at, hey, we need to do a gas station and truck stop, and that later became the Western Village. Then they had some apartments and some more retail but really for a lot of the period, this was just to the east of it was farmland, and then the city came in. They built the Don Mello Sports Complex, and in the late 90s, see if I can get to that slide. You can see they did construct an old outlet mall that wasn't very successful at the interchange of Sparks Boulevard, but it was just largely vacant, used for storing of Helms construction equipment.
Okay, that makes sense because it just kind of looked like it maybe was like a spillover, but I couldn't tell for sure. So, okay. So I do have another question for you. What are the future plans for the Legends Marina development? Because it's, over the years, it's been amazing seeing how much growth, and it doesn't seem like there's a lot of land left around the Sparks Marina. So
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sherry. I think we're kind of down to the last two lakeside developments for Legends. Obviously, we had the Legends Bay Casino open up a couple years ago. There's two hotels that are roughly right here that are tied in with the hotel with the casino. The movie theaters got built out right here. We have some restaurants, and so we are the city planning commission did approve a couple months ago a Yard House Brewery restaurant that's going to be on this side of the marina, and then I think there's talk of another hotel to kind of get this final corner of the marina. And so with that, the pathway system, the 2 miles concrete pathway system will be in place. Another exciting development as part of the Marina Village handbook is the final piece of multifamily residentials going in right where the canal and the lake kind of intersect, just south of the front building. Here's a rendering of that image. They're looking to put in some more apartments and have folks living at the marina, kind of continuing that theme. Here's that kind of rendering.
And you said that there was what, 53 family homes and over 1,000 people kind of with the apartments?
Yeah,
Was that kind of the
1,100
numbers you were saying?
1,100 housing units have been constructed in this redevelopment district that's just next to the park.
And then what will this new rendering of apartments or housing, how is there numbers what they're thinking?
I think they're looking at
it?
like 35 more housing units. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. I know Neal will have a question too, but just because I know you're involved with the Sparks Heritage Museum and kind of the celebration for the birthdays and and new things you're expanding on, I would think you have information on your Sparks history map that you guys about the marina and other stuff, but you want to talk a little bit about that and talking about, what additional content you might be adding to it as time goes on?
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sherry. Last March, the Sparks Heritage Museum we launched a Sparks History Map project. And so really what we're trying to do is if you go to our website, sparksmuseum.org, we have a link to the Sparks History Map page. And what we're trying to do is trying to get folks to share their Sparks, their history of Sparks. And we're trying to get, on a map, the history of these different areas. We've lost so many great buildings and places around the city. We want to create a really cool interactive map where you could see, well, what was there before it was this apartment complex, or what did the marina used to look like, or what was the original Sparks High School looking like. We have on a map you can click around, and we're trying to encourage the folks to check out sparksmuseum.org and share their Sparks with us.
I love that. So I figured that, you guys, have been adding a lot to it. So I see Neal has a question. So.
Well, I'm just wondering why the city of Sparks itself hasn't got really a big time behind the Sparks Heritage Museum. It is an absolute jewel. There is more work that has been done over the years. Just absolutely beautiful. Christine Johnson, I believe, is now with the state, and so we have a new manager over there. And you have to, restrict what you can and cannot do because you haven't got the extra backing that you could really use that is promoting the city of Sparks. And the city of Sparks has got a wonderful history, and it should be shared by everyone. So is there anything in the plans to maybe get bondage or get some other money coming in so you can keep everything going like it is right now?
Yeah, certainly. I think at the museum we're really gearing up for our 40th anniversary. This year we have some exciting things we're going to be launching in a couple months. New exhibits and exciting people. But one of the things we desperately need at the Sparks Heritage Museum is folks to become a member of the museum. Memberships are open to anybody and everyone in the community. We'd sure like to increase our ranks. We have family memberships and individual memberships, and that support really goes a long way to help us with our programming, keep fresh and new exhibits throughout the year and as well too. And so if you're interested in becoming a member, member or would like to volunteer your time, we're always looking for folks to help us with keeping the museum operating and working the front desk and helping us with research projects. Some really exciting stuff coming up this year. So please check us out. We're at 814 Victorian Avenue at the corner of Victorian and Pyramid Way, and sparksmuseum.org.
Yeah, and it's
One
a
last
beautiful
comment.
building for sure.
I have one last comment, and that is to congratulate Scott on a first-class program. This has been wonderful today. And believe it or not, and he knows me well, I have other places that we're going to be able to bring the same program. He's in the crosshairs big time. So again, Scott, thank you so very, very much. And I am a lifetime member.
You sure are, and thank you for those kind words, Neal. I'm very excited about this partnership. Big thank you to the Nevada Historical Society, Washoe County Library System for putting this together. I think having this presentation available on YouTube is going to be a great resource for the community and capture this important part of Sparks' history. It's really helped really redefine what we know as the city of Sparks. And just want to put a big thank you to the Sparks Heritage Museum and the city of Sparks for its assistance in helping me putting this presentation together. Big thank you to my dad, Sean Carey, for his institutional knowledge on all this, and appreciate the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Scott. It was lovely. It was a great program, and always learning things about Sparks, and when you've given some other talks over time. So we appreciate it, and we love sharing great history, and I learned a lot today. So I hope everyone else did as well. So I want to thank again the Washoe County Library System. They're a great partner and have been supporters and worked with us for many years, and we so appreciate it. So I'll send it back to Jennifer, and thank you guys again.
And thank you all for joining us. Thank you to historian Scott Carey, to Sherry Hayes-Zorn and Neal Cobb with the Nevada Historical Society, and to Tim, this month's Washoe County Library System Tech Wizard, for making this event possible today. And that's it.
Thanks,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Bye.
Bye.